Yes. Okay. All right. So let's get to drawing some faces, my friend. Okay. So let's talk about some faces. Okay. So just making sure that we're good on the live stream. 30 minutes in, and now we're gonna finally draw. There you go. There you go. Okay. My theory behind.
Well spent.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Okay. So again, guys, my theory behind faces. Okay. Well, my theory behind drawing anything, and I think I explained this last Sunday school. The difference between this, I keep mentioning this because it's so important, right? The difference between this, you can see that. The difference between that and this. It's the way of thinking. The difference between thinking of a flat circle versus thinking of a sphere. The difference between thinking in 2D versus thinking in 3D. Okay? So this is whenever I'm drawing, I'm always thinking this way. Okay? So whenever I'm drawing a face, I'm just not thinking, like especially when I'm doing likenesses. That's why whenever I do likenesses, I don't just have one photo that I'm trying to quote-unquote copy. I actually got like at least 10, 15 photos of the same person. So in my mind, I'm trying to kind of sculpt that person's face. How long out is their nose? How wide is their nostrils? You know, how far do their cheekbones stick out? How far back is their eye? You know, their eye sockets from you know their eyebrow bone. I don't even know what it's called, but this front part here of the skull, whatever that's called, that's the technical term. Eyebrow bone. That's what we call, right? So I'm always thinking about that in those terms. Okay, so. And the more, to be honest, the more you guys understand muscles and the way the face works and the skeleton, the easier these things get, okay? When you understand how the face works, the easier things get. But we'll try to simplify a little bit just for today. So with that in mind, when we think of a skull, I think of two particular shapes here. I'm going to think about the, of course, we got the, that. Top of the skull. So I always do a skull in two circles here, two spheres. Okay? So we got like the top, like the cranium part here, and then we have the jaw. Like that. Alright? So usually when I draw a head, well, you know, like you, I probably draw a head like this, right? You'll see me draw a head like this. But when I'm doing this is really my thinking. Okay? And usually that's what a head is here. Like a jaw, cranium here. Okay? So I'll draw two spheres here, and then I'll go ahead, in terms of thinking anyway, okay? And I'll go ahead and try to shape my head around that, okay? Now, again, you could do the same thing here. Now, a lot of people like to do their heads here like this. Just by doing like one sphere, and then in the middle you have the eyes, and then you do the proportions, right? Between that, you know, you get well, actually, I think the mouth here and the nose. You know, it always changes. You know, they always say, okay, eyes are halfway. Depends on the person, to be honest with you. Whatever feels right. Okay, but in this instance, we're going to concentrate on this one here. Okay, so I like to put a little guideline here. And as you see, when I put the line, I bring it like I'm drawing around the skull. Like I'm drawing around the surface here. Okay. And then I'm going to draw another line that goes across here like so. Okay, so I know this is a lot of review for a lot of you, but just to show you guys my thinking process, okay? Now, when it comes to the eyes, okay, so I don't really draw this, but this is what I'm thinking when it comes to the eyes. The eyes, if you think about it, eyes are like, they're these big round spheres, right? And they're behind, inside the skull. Like you have the skull. You know, the skull, you have the skull sockets here, and the eye is like stuck behind that, right? So that's what you're thinking of there. The eyeball is kind of stuck behind that. So you have this, the technical term, eyebrow bone, right here. And then you have the eye there. And then the skin, what happens is the skin kind of wraps around this particular, it wraps around the actual eyeball itself. Okay? So that's where you have your eyelids, right? And then that skin forms around the eyelid, or the eyeball, excuse me. Eyeball. Same over here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the same thing. And what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing the eyes is that piece of skin that's sticking to the eyeball there, okay? So this eye, those skin should feel like they're attached to the eyeball itself, okay? So you got this little bit of hangy-do here. Like my technical terms. It's 20 years since college, my friends. So that thingy-do, that's a tech. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's what they use.
Terms in the Grey's Anatomy,
yes.
Like the sticky thing.
The sticky thing and the thingy-do, right? I think I heard House say that once. The thingy-do. There you go. But also with that eyeball, that's where you get the that skin fold under the eye. It kind of shapes that eye from the eyeball, right? So here, that little skin that forms on the eye. Thinking about that eyeball there, okay? So of course we got that part of the bone there, okay? And then, as we know, the skull. The skull. It's like this, right? The skull. You have just a little bit of bone sneaking out there, and then of course that's where the nose is going to be drawn out here like this, okay? Get the nostrils here. Again, if you want to draw your guidelines, by all means, draw your guidelines here. And then I like to go ahead and draw the nostril here. In terms of the nostril, I like to draw like a little oval here on the side. And then just draw a little bit of shadow in here. Nobody wants to draw hairs. I don't think I've seen anyone draw some hair sticking out. It's not real life here. we like to see what's it called? We like to see stubble, but we don't like to see hair in the nose. That's a no-no. There you go. Okay, and then we got the maybe Taylor, you're better at the lingo than I am. The hangy-do.
On that, you're talking to somebody who makes up lingo for explanation to everyone every day.
Okay, there you go. We're the same, sir.
Nobody knows what filigree is.
Filigree. Well, that sounds like something on top of the lip. There you go. Look, this is the filigree here. Okay, you got the little step here, and then I would go ahead and then draw the lip. Now, you hear various things about where this lip should end, and again, if you want reference, just grab a mirror. I always say grab a mirror, just to take a look of how your face would look. And to be honest, that's why sometimes if you look very carefully at a lot of artists' work, if you look very carefully, sometimes, if you look at the artist's work, sometimes they have an essence of that artist whenever they draw humans, where they kind of look like their drawings. And I think subconsciously it's because who do you see the most? You see yourself the most. So when you want to draw a human, the first person you can think about is yourself. So that's why you'll always have some sort of remnant of yourself in the drawing, right? But in terms of the lip here, sometimes people say it's like right, where the edge of the eye is. Some people say it's where the pupil is, going down. I just do what feels right. And again, it all depends on the person. Everybody's different. And then I'll have the lip sticking out just a little bit under there. I'm going to bring this chin out just a little bit here, like so. Okay, maybe bring out this cheekbone a little bit, like this. Okay. If we're drawing a superhero, give him like a strong jaw. And I was mentioning this before, like, in comic books, I find everybody has a strong jaw, even if they're overweight. They'll have a strong jaw like that, and then they'll have a double chin like this. They'll draw them like that, even though technically it would probably be smooth. But whatever. Or at least that's how I draw it. I won't speak for all artists. Okay? But then I'll draw the neck here, so we know the neck kind of sticks in to the skull here. Sticks into the skull, okay? And then we have the round head like so. Okay, so, and then we're going to go ahead and draw the eyes, okay? And then you go just a little bit more. And we'll have them looking forward here. So I will go ahead and then draw in a little circle like so. We'll have this person look this way. So he's looking that way. And then I will draw a little highlight, okay? Now, to be honest, the highlight should change whenever you change the lighting. Okay, and we will talk about lighting in a second here. But I always like to have at least one little highlight there, and that adds a little bit to it. And then I'll go ahead and draw the iris inside that one here. Okay, so that is my... Okay, maybe I'll add a little bit of line here. Okay, just, you know, just where the lip meets the cheek here. Okay, and then maybe a little line right underneath here for the chin, and then you can make the chin as big, as small as you want. That sort of case. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to quickly ink just the fine details of this, okay, before we get into the shadows, okay? So I'm just going to go in here and then just do a very rough ink here, just so you can see. So just trying to get those folds of skin going on there. And one thing to notice about faces, like for me personally, when the more lines you add to a face, it feels like the older the person gets. Sometimes if we're trying to draw an actor or an actress and we're trying to draw every little single detail in the face, sometimes that can work against you because, again, the more lines you add, sometimes they get a lot older when you add lines. So that's why when you see me draw female like characters or actresses or stuff, I try to keep the lines actually to a minimum because it really ages them up when you add a lot of lines to it, okay? So I'm going to go and add some eyebrows here, the way I like to add eyebrows. Again, always good to look in the mirror whenever you're adding eyebrows. I like to just add some like swooping lines. But again, this is a style choice. Some people like to, as you see, I like to draw every hair. Well, it's me. I like to draw every hair. But some people, they just like to draw like a solid or just outline it. That's fine. However, you like to do that. All right. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and ink the side of the nose. And the nostril. Okay, so I'm actually doing the bare minimum here because I want to show you guys some different options when it comes to lighting this character here. Okay, so coming over here, the lip like so. This part here, I even forgot what we called that. I don't remember. And then we'll go ahead and just ink the sides of the face here. Okay, I'm just going to take a little thicker marker here just for the outline of the. Oh, I didn't even draw the ear. We'll draw the ear in a second. But I will go ahead and just quickly add the chin. Whoops. I think I went too far there. That's okay. But just to give you guys an idea. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw the ear. Let me go grab my pencil again. The ear, they say, where the nose and maybe the eyebrow or the top of the eye, whoever you listen to on that day, they'll go ahead here and I'll draw an outer ear shape. And the more you study the ears, the easier it gets. Like, get some reference. Don't be afraid to grab some reference when it comes to the ear. I'm going to go in here and then go draw the fold in here. And then you got this inner part here. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, to be honest, but this is just how I've always been drawing ears for the most part. I find people, the more, the closer you get to it, close is good enough. People usually won't complain about your ears. They'll notice when you hide feet, but the ears, they usually don't complain that too much. And then I'll go ahead and then add some stuff. Like, that's good enough for the ear. Good enough. You could get more detailed as you want there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the neck here. So we'll just give this person a simple neck, not a superhero neck, but a simple neck. If you want to get superhero-ish, you could add these two, I don't even know what they're called, but these things. What's the technical term? Anybody know the technical term for these two parts? But you'll see superhero draw.
Books in the living room.
Yeah, exactly.
Should have grabbed it.
There you go. I'm not tested anymore, so I don't have to know the names of this stuff. Like that round thing. Very technical. And then I'll draw a little line here. Now, get your head to where you want it to be. You can add as much hair as you want, okay? But at this point, Okay, and let me just erase some of my guidelines here. So let me just let this dry out a little bit. Let me just let that dry out a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the insides here. Okay, so I'm going to erase some of that. Okay. So if you needed to look at those guidelines more, feel free to rewind the tape. Okay. Okay. So.
James.
Yes.
Whenever I erase my microns, they always just fade out a little bit.
Yep. And you'll get that. That's the nature of microns, unfortunately. Like, unless you're using like India ink, or like ink like that, for sure microns will fade a little bit. And again, that's another reason why I was using blue pencil all the time before, just the fact I didn't have to erase. That's one thing I noticed once I started going pencil is that I had to erase. So I do find myself sometimes having to go over lines if they get too faded out. Like I especially notice like the thicker lines too. That's when it can fade a lot. So so definitely that's just something we'll have to live with for now. Have to live with for now.
The trick that I kind of do when depending on what your project is
right.
you go through with like a thin micron,
Mm-hmm.
get all your core information, and then you can go in and add line width and variation.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. And to that point, that same point, Taylor, because when I decided that I was going to ink my own stuff, just like you said, like you just have the core, lines, and then you add the detail after, right? You add all those little details after, so you don't have to draw every single line and then erase. The regular details then erase, and then that way, number one, it's a little bit more fun too if you do it that way. A little bit more fun. That's why one thing I really hated about inking my own stuff when I first started was, I add a lot of detail. I hated myself after because I had to go over the same detail and draw it again. So it felt like I was drawing everything twice. But now, I just do like like the outlines, the core outlines, and then I do the detail afterwards. So that's a very good tip, Taylor. Thank you for that, my friend. Okay, so with this now, whenever I analyze a face like this, I start thinking about it in 3D, okay? And I think about it in terms of planes, okay? The planes of the face, and that will help in terms of how we like this thing, okay? So for example, here, this part here, this is a flat surface. I would say like this instep here, that would be a flat surface here, right? And then there's lots online, and maybe I could find one quickly that I could show you guys instead of me drawing it, just so I show you what I'm thinking of. Okay, and it's a very common thing here. Let me share this with you guys. 1 second. Pull this up, and I'm going to add window capture. Okay, so you see that there. Planes of the face. Okay, so planes of the face here. So all the different flat surfaces you see here. Okay, so this one's not bad. And you'll see this in art books all the time. But all the different surfaces, okay? Trying to think around the face, okay? And then once you realize what parts of the face stick out, what recede inside the head, the easier it is to light it, okay? So we're going to play around with some lighting here, and that's one good thing about being able to erase, okay? So we're going to play around with some lighting here, all right? So let me erase this. So just say, for example, we have light that's coming this way, in this corner here. Oops, let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. You don't even know what I'm doing here. 1 second, my friends. There you go. All right. So say that, okay, you know what I should do, guys? I should pin my, for you guys on my, there you go. So you're full screen for you. There you go. Say you have lighting coming from this side right here. Okay, so you ask yourself, okay, what parts of the face will actually block that light? And then that's where we're going to start adding some shadow. Okay, so the obvious ones, okay, so I'm going to draw a little bit of line here for that nose. Obvious one, maybe under the nose a little bit here, so I'm going to go ahead in here and start shading inside this part of the lip on this side, maybe underneath This lip like so. Like that. Maybe under this eyelid, I think we'll get some light that kind of goes around here. But maybe this eye, there'll be some shadow that comes around like so, like this. Maybe something like that. Maybe under the eye, there would be a little bit of shadow. Okay, so you get the light coming this way, okay? On this side, this part will probably be almost all in shadow. Almost, and I'll explain why in a second. Okay? Maybe under the... And we'll get to the side in a second here, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and then add a little bit of shadow underneath this lip here. So maybe you got a little bit of shadow coming around like this. Maybe even part of this lip is in shadow. Here. Maybe a little bit under the chin, depending on if this person has a cleft chin or not. Would have a little bit of shadow. Under like that. Of course, underneath the jaw here. Something like that. And then I'm just going to add a few lines here. And you'll see this, me adding this in my drawings all the time. Just some lines here just to kind of, you know, just little details here. Just so, you know, I can figure out, okay, this is the cheekbone here. Maybe add a little bit of shadow here, just a little bit. Maybe a little shadow where this fold is, right here. Okay. Maybe a little shadow in the ear here. Maybe a little bit more shadow in the ear. Right? Maybe shadow underneath the ear. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about when the light's coming this way. Now, usually, okay, so if this was just say this was a completely dark room, no light, and then you took a flashlight and shined the light like this, all of this would be in shadow, the whole thing. But for the most part, what artists like to do is add a little bit of rim light to a character. So what we're thinking of is either there's a light behind him, or there's a light that kind of bounces on one side and then hits from the back. So what happens is, if we go here, I'll leave a little bit of white space right in here. I'll leave a little bit of white space. And you'll see artists do that. We'll leave a little bit of white space inside here. And what that is, we're trying to mimic a bounce light or a rim light. And what that helps do is actually help your character pop out a little bit more. So that's what that's for. Okay? And then maybe I'll add a little bit of shadow here. And then, you know, as much detail as you want here. Maybe he's angry. Add details, whatever. Okay? So just say that was the light coming from that side. Okay? What if the light was coming from the other side? This way. Well, that's a different story. Okay? That's a different story. Okay? So we'll give that a shot. And this is one good thing about having our standard head here. It makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to erase that. And a little arrow here. Back to square one. What if the light was coming this way? On this side. What if it's coming on this side? Okay, so maybe, like for sure, this part would be in shadow inside here. Probably all the way, almost. Okay? You'd have a little bit of shadow under this eye here. A little bit. And maybe a little bit underneath here. So I'm thinking about the sun coming here, or the light coming here, and then this blocking that, okay? You'll get a little bit of shadow on that side of the eye there, okay? And maybe part of this nose, depending on how strong this lighting is, maybe this nose will cast a little bit of shadow here. So maybe this part here, that will be in light. And then I'll add a little bit of shadow here. Okay, so it's like this bridge of this nose is casting a shadow down. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Okay, I could leave a little bit of a hot spot there on the nose, maybe in the front, like a little triangle. And then add some more shadow underneath. Like so. Something like that, maybe. Something like that. Could go in here. Of course, this lip will be completely in shadow. Underneath here would still be in shadow, but We'd have some light coming there across. And then we had our cheekbone here. And again, we could go ahead and fill this in, make this in shadow as well. This whole part here. This whole part here in shadow. Same thing. Same thing with the chin. Maybe under there. Now again, like this is something that you don't necessarily have to do in the inking stage. This is thinking you could go for when you're coloring this. Like if you're coloring this digitally or with markers, like you could do this with color at the same time. It would be the same premise, okay? So a couple things I will leave though. Just like we said the bounce like for the one side, I could do that with this side too. I'm going to leave a little bit. I'm going to leave a little bit of light, white here on the side here of this chin. Again, and that's just to, that is to mimic a bounce light there, or a rim light, okay? All the way across here, as you see, okay? There, oh, Elijah went out. Hold on, admit Elijah there. Sorry, Elijah went out for a second. Welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. So, something like that, okay? And then, and like I mentioned before, and you hear me mention this before, whenever you see me do like the cross hatching, what am I doing here? Well, if there's a, just say there's a light coming down this way, like here, all this would be in shade. But what the cross hatching is, it's me trying to mimic light going around a surface. That's all it is. We talked about that before in the Sunday school we had previously, where it's got to feel like light's going around. Okay, so it feels like light's wrapping around this object. So here, you could do the same thing, depending on his cheeks, and that's when you will see me add some cross hatching here. Okay, and again, you don't have to do this step. This is something that you can do in, again, in color, if you want to. So it's really up to you. This, to be honest, this all comes down to style. I would classify this all in style. Like even the dark part here, that's all in style. Whether you want to do this here or you want to do this in color, that's totally up to you. A lot of artists don't even like doing this. A lot of artists just like leaving in, just the line work, and then doing all of that rendering in color. So that's really up to you how you want to do that. Okay. Now, in terms of the eyes, I never really shade the eyes, but sometimes I will add just a tiny bit of darkness in the corner, depending on what it is. If you want to give him a bit of crow's feet, as we call it, the crow's feet on the side, a little bit of wrinkles. Again, will look older, but it will help. Okay, in terms of that. Okay, so that's lighting coming from that side. All right. Now let's try something else. Okay, that didn't turn out too bad. It's not too bad. Now let's get rid of it. Okay. Goodbye. Goodbye. Let's try something else, because this is fun. This is fun. That's all good, but what if we did... Okay, let's try something. It might, probably a little simple, but what if we did a top-down lighting? So the light's coming this way, all the way down. Top down. Top down. Okay, well, the obvious, these eyes would almost be completely in shadow, right? The eyes, both eyes equally, will be in shadow. Under the eyes would be completely in shadow. Okay. Again, you might have a little bit more shadow here, but for the most part, there's not much going on here. So maybe a little bit of shadow, depending on how sunken in the cheekbones are. We would have right underneath the nose, and it would cast a shadow. So it would actually go down a bit. So that's why you see me do this a lot with my heroes. They'll have shadow going like down like that, and they're like, how come all your heroes have Hitler mustaches? That's what they say, right? But no, it's just shadow coming down, right? Underneath the lip, of course, there, and then underneath the lip here, but not too much, okay? Because all the light's coming down this way, and of course you got the shade all under here. Okay, so this one's a little bit easier because most of the light's being blocked by like the eyes, the nose, the chin. And you continue that with all the little details in here, in the ear, underneath. This would cast a little shadow here. So the main point is, whenever you're drawing something, that in your scene, everything in your scene has the same lighting consistency. So if you have top-down lighting here, make sure the character beside it also has top-down lighting. Or the furniture, or the animal beside it. All of it should have the consistent lighting. Should all be the same. Okay? So that's pretty simple. Why don't we try something a little bit harder at this point? Let's try something a little bit harder. So I'm going to release that. So instead of going top down, what if this guy's telling a scary story? What if he's telling a scary story? He's got a flashlight under here. Oh, he's got a flashlight. Look at that. He's got a flashlight there. Woo! Spooky. What if the lighting is coming from underneath? Okay? That's something you don't see that often. You don't see that often. Maybe in some crime comics or whatever, where the light's coming down from underneath. This is where your understanding of the planes of the face makes it a little bit easier to tackle something like this. Like even for me, this is kind of hard because you don't really do it that often. But knowing that the planes of the face, okay, so maybe on top of here, you want a little bit of shadow, so we would go in reverse, right? A little bit here, there'd be a little bit of shadow there. This time, the bottom lip would be the one to get a little bit of the shadow treatment. Okay, so light sticking up here, maybe the upper lip here would get a little bit of the shadow treatment. So I'm just guessing here. And again, guys, it's always good to get reference. Because, like, honestly, if this was cast to me, probably the very first thing I would do is get reference, okay? Now, again, the more you don't need to rely on reference, the better, because, to be honest, you'll be faster. But never hurts to get reference to be accurate. So I would look up person telling scary stories just to kind of see how that lighting looks, okay? So this part of the nose, that would be shown, right? Up here, I'm not sure how high up I want to go, but the cheeks here, like instead of this part being in shade, maybe this part here is in shade, this top part here. Same with this top part here. Ooh, spooky. Okay, so this will probably be still, well, actually, would that be in shade? I don't know, actually. Let me think. Would that be in shade? Maybe part of it. Like maybe the top of the eyelid would be. But maybe they'll have a little bit here that won't be. Like maybe this part won't be. And depending on his forehead, how much shade would go here, and then maybe some light would bounce, so maybe I will add some cross hatching here at the top, you know? So it's always fun to play around with this type of stuff, with this lighting. But the main point is just the thinking. Where's that source of light coming from? What's it hitting, and how is that part of the face, part of the body, whatever, how is that casting a shadow? If at all. If at all. Now, in comics, we love a good directional light. We love a good directional light. It can add to mood. It could help, again, to help integrate a lot of elements by having a lot of objects with the same lighting. Really helps the picture kind of sell what's going on. So we really do love a good directional light. But, there's times when it's overcast sky outside and there's no shadow at all. Or very, very soft shadows, right? There's definitely could be cases like that. So it all depends on your situation. But again, the more you understand how the planes of the face work or how they're shaped, the easier it is when it comes to actually lighting the face as well, right? And also when you look at faces, and let me just show you this to you quickly. Let me see if I could bring back here. Let's look up some faces, okay? If you really wanted to look into faces, Okay, and let's go images. Here, let's go faces. Smile. And one thing I want to show you guys before... Oops. I'm getting a lot of emojis. I don't want emojis. Human faces. How about that? Human faces and smile. Okay? You ask yourself, and I'll show you guys this. Doesn't look like... You always got to be careful when you Google. You never know what you're going to find when you Google, even with the safe settings on. Okay? Okay, so... Let's take, for example, this guy's face here. Okay? If we look at this guy's face here, all right, and then let's here. If we look at this guy's face here, there's a lot going on. Okay? There's a lot going on. So what's happening? Of course, he's smiling. But what's going on underneath the face here? What's happening? The muscles are pulling back the mouth so, you know, he can make that smile. However, by doing so, what's happening to the skin? You know what it's like? It's like you know, in a sweater, if you see a loose piece of string, and then you pull the string, and then the rest of the fabric gets all bunched up, like that. In essence, that's what's going on in the face here. Like his muscle is pulling back the lip here, and in doing so, what's happening is the skin is starting to get scrunched together. It's really starting to get scrunched together. You see there? And as you get older, you got a little bit more skin. You got a little bit more loose skin. So it's not just the cheeks that's getting the actual skin treatment here, right? That's pulling back. It's also like around the eyes. You see her around the nose. So it's the skin scrunching up because it's being affected by all that muscle that's working underneath. Now, I'm not saying you have to draw all of this stuff, but the more you understand the way it works, the more you can start drawing faces on your own without reference and understand how that skin's going to look whenever a person has an expression on his face, okay? It's going like this, and it's going like that. That's going on my eyes, what's going on my nose, right? And then what's happening to the skin around there, right? So it's all about the thinking whenever it comes to actually drawing this face, okay? So just something to think about. So it's always worth looking at face muscles. It's always worth taking a look at skin. It's always worth having a mirror beside you whenever you're drawing, so that you could, whenever you're drawing, you look at the face, you know. And we mentioned this last time. Whenever I'm drawing an expression, I'm always making the face subconsciously. I'm always making the same face as the person I'm drawing. So that's just all in the thinking whenever I'm drawing there. So, okay? So, you know, that's all I got for faces, okay? That's all I got for faces. So hopefully I touched on a lot there. I can open up for questions if any of you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask about this. Not really?
Not particularly. I actually just started playing a lot with room lighting in my own art, mostly also because I've been playing around with it in real life photography.
Yes, right, for sure.
Kind of what you were saying about having a mirror and having references in order to jump into. And I find that messing around with lighting in person helped out a lot for the learning where shadows are cast and stuff.
Absolutely.
Some mental images. And it's pretty easy to grab a cell phone light and take a quick picture or something to figure out some tests for that.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. And to be honest with you, I never really thought this way. Like in terms of planes of faces, like thinking in 3D. I actually never really thought that way until I started studying 3D animation. Until I started actually building sculptures. Because then I was like, oh, and I was playing around with lighting. Oh, that's how, and then I was like, I wish I knew this stuff when I was working in comic books. Because that would have been a lot easier. Like, the way I was thinking about it. You know, for me, I was just trying to mimic what I see with what other artists were doing. Or even in the face, just trying to mimic kind of what I see without understanding the way all of this is actually affecting the face, right? So it is definitely a good amount of knowledge. Like, so the more you could dabble with photography or even sculpting, the better you're going to get at this stuff, for sure. If you get the means, of course, right? But it's always worth looking into, especially when you're starting to learn how to do some of this stuff, for sure. Right? Yeah, for sure. So
I got a question.
Oh, sure, absolutely. EJ, yeah.
I got one.
Go for it.
Oh, sorry. So like when trying to practice it, how would you I'm more talking about the face, not really the lighting, but like when trying to practice drawing the face?
Yeah.
Do you think you should split it up into like the mouth, the nose, or just keep drawing faces?
I would.
Or should I split it up into like?
I could say split it up, but to be honest, I just go ahead and draw a face. Just draw a face.
You draw a face.
Because
Okay.
you know, you always get, like, you look in any art book, they'll tell you the proportions and all that stuff. But again, if you look at all different sorts of faces, they're all different. Everyone has longer noses, shorter noses, bigger lips, bigger eyes, smaller eyes. So, like, for me personally, they all have to work together, right? They all have to feel like they fit together. So you could draw the perfect nose and you could draw the perfect eyes, but they might not match together at the same time. So me personally, I personally like to practice them all together, personally, right? So
Okay.
just like an
And
overall
then,
look.
do you think I should use reference for that?
Yes.
Because I also see that comic book, like when drawing like a superhero, they don't really have like full lips. Like you don't really see the whole thing. You just see like a line and
Right.
So,
Well, a couple of factors in that. First of all, how close they are to the camera, of course. You know, and of course, closer to the camera, you're going to see more of that detail. So it's more like, sometimes in comics too, depending on their time, because in comics, you know, they only have a day to actually draw that page. They'll take shortcuts when they can, or sometimes it's down to style. You know, because you could get away with maybe just a line for lips, depending on your style. Like my friend Francis Menipol, like usually just draws a line for the mouth, and that works because that fits into his style. Also, he colors his own stuff too, so he'll actually add stuff in the color process, right? So it's really up to you. To me, that all comes down to style, right? All the amount of detail you put into your face, and it comes down to style. As long as you understand how that face actually works, I think you're okay. You're in a good spot. So it all depends on your actual style.
and then you would recommend a reference.
Yes,
like,
absolutely. No matter how cartoony your style is, I would always recommend reference, because it the more you understand the rules, you know, it's the old adage, the more you understand the rules, the more you could break them.
you can bend them.
Yes, exactly, right? Because you could bend them, but if you bend them too much, then the regular person will just be drawn out of your drawing. They'll just say that just looks too weird. Like you could break things to a point, right? You can extend things to a point, and as long as you're consistent with it, for the most part, it works. But the more you understand it, the better. Like, I'll give you an example. My friend, I'll call him acquaintance, Stephen Platt. I met him like 20 years ago when he was extremely hot. He was this very hot artist back in the I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he came to visit Dreamwave once, and we talked for quite a bit. And if you saw his style, he has this highly detailed, cartoony style. Let me see if I can draw it up. Stephen Platt. Right now he's doing storyboards now. He's a storyboard artist now. He stopped doing comics. But if you look at his style back in the day, he has this really weird, very hyper detailed style. Hold on, let me see. Let me just call this up and then I'll show you. Let me show you this. Definitely one of my influences. When you look at this, you'll see how you can see bits of me in here. Let's see. This one here. There you go. You can see that there.
Wow.
This is the type of stuff he did back in the day, right? And if you look at the way he did faces, right? Let me see if I could find a face that he did. And I'm looking for the older stuff, not the newer stuff. The newer stuff he's changed a bit. Prophet. This is a good one, I think. But look at this weird pose here. Look at this weird pose. Look at this. Oh, let me see if I can actually get the actual real size here. See, look how exaggerated it is, and you see how cartoony the face is and stuff like that.
But
when we are talking, he swore by life drawing, right? And we've done some life drawing here together, right?
Right.
But the way he exaggerates, before he got to the point of this type of exaggeration, he had to actually figure out how everything worked first before he decided, okay, this, you know, if I push this muscle this way and that way, it will still work as long as the form works in that sense, right? So, you know, styles change, and that's a matter of style. Like all this stuff underneath here, it's all a matter of style. Okay, but at the same time, you know when I was younger, I would always copy his stuff, so I would always do this type of rendering here, and it's a very weird rendering. But in my mind, I wasn't thinking about lighting at that time. I was just thinking, oh, he's just got a whole bunch of lines here, right? But now, when I look at it, I see what he's doing here. Like, this is underlighting. He's saying there's a light that's kind of shining underneath here because all these lines here, they're all consistent underneath. So all of this is light reflecting, going underneath and eating into the shadow. So he has a light on the top, and there's a bounce light coming underneath, and this is snow. So he would have some light coming underneath here. So even though this is cartoony, there's a lot of real life going on in here. But he's doing it in a way that's really outrageous and kind of out there. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to style. It all comes down to style at the end of the day. This guy was extremely late on his books.
I was about to say.
The amount of detail. Oh, Rob Liefeld hated this guy. He paid him so much money, and he was so late on his books. Like
that probably took him a day right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories. You could look that up. He has a wonderful story, Stephen. When we talk, he's a wonderful story how he got into comics and all that, and he was a star for quite a while. But that's an example of style. Right? Style meets life and real world rules, quote unquote, meeting your style. Right? So It's all a process, and it takes a lot of time. It's not something that you just get overnight. It's just something you pick up. And the more you practice between some real world stuff and whatever your style is, right, the more they'll eventually meet in the middle. And then you have something that's genuinely your style. Right? So,
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah,
so another good example is Bruce Timm. He has a bunch of books that are just for anatomy books. And
right on.
He's a super cartoon artist.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. If I look that up, Bruce Timm.
I would be cautious about looking up some of that on Google.
Well, let's just see Bruce Timm.
For this group.
Okay, let me just check Bruce Timm. Let me just Bruce Timm because I'm pretty sure we'll just see his Batman stuff. But even so, look how simple that is, right? Look how simple even just something like that is. But the structure's all there. Everything I talked about is still there. He even has I'm not sure if that's a mustache or a little bit of a shadow. I don't know. I don't know what that is. There or an ink blot. I don't know what that is. Right.
Bruce Timm to me is a master of how can I draw in as few as lines as possible.
Exactly. And to be honest, if you could draw that way, you'll last a lot longer in comics. I'll tell you that.
I'm working on it for animating.
Yeah. You'll be faster. You'll make your deadlines, and all of that. Right. The Stephen Platt look, which I was trying to do. I was trying to be George Perez. That's what I was trying to do back in the day. That totally killed my career. I think trying to do that. But even here, simple shading.
I got one more.
Yeah. By all means, go for it.
So when doing when you draw on your YouTube and stuff, when you do superheroes and comic book characters, the shading's different than if you used to do a real person, I guess. So the black lines, I mean.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because again, that comes down to the type of style I like to do, for sure. Now, whenever I'm doing for example, the Marvel stuff, right? If you notice when I'm doing because I'm trying to get likenesses, make them, get them down. So if you look at the faces I do, that's where I'll stray away from my style a little bit. I'll do the line weights. I won't do heavy shading on the faces, but where you'll see it more is in the actual costumes that they're wearing.
The masks,
clothing, But the faces I tend to try to leave alone because I'm trying to get a likeness going in there, and then especially working for actual Disney marketing, they're very particular on how likenesses look. In fact, I was kind of lucky in that sense. They weren't too worried about my likenesses, but the actors actually have final say in how they look. Oh, wow. Right? So you can't just draw them any way you want. The actors have to say, it's actually written in their contracts that they have final approval on the art, pretty much. The actors have to like how you draw. And I've heard a lot of stories I cannot tell, unfortunately. Maybe if all of us were just hanging out having a coffee, I could tell you these stories. Right? But I've heard a lot of stories.
We're on it.
Yeah, not today.
But yeah, because I like when I draw. So when I draw a person, it's I just don't know. I know where the lighting goes, but I kind of wanted to have a comic book feel with the black shadowing that I do. But I just can never get. I just don't know how to even. No,
for sure. And again, it definitely comes in time. It definitely comes in time. like the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. And to be honest with you, it took me quite a while too to try to figure out what I wanted to be as a comic book artist. It took me quite a few years to be honest with you. Like I started off just doing backgrounds for Pat Lee, and then afterwards I did finally get my nibble doing humans, and just try to find that balance, what worked and what didn't. It took a while. It definitely took a while, right? So, got a lot of stories that I could tell. We'd be here all night if I told my stories. But there you go. But a lot of practice, my friend. A lot of practice, for sure. And it will come. It will come. The more you practice. So.
And then, I'm about to join back on my computer. So if I leave, could you?
Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's wrap up this particular session here. So what's going to happen, guys?
Okay.
Because I'm separating this a little bit later on. We're going to talk about a new topic. What do you guys want to talk about for the next one? What do you want to talk about? You guys have any preference? What you would like me to go over? And there, as my son is there in the corner.
I'll be around for the whole thing. So
okay, no, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Let the people who are there.
Okay, yeah.
So you guys hatching already, but no one else does it.
Okay, yeah. We did a bit of cross hatching for the last one.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah. So anything else that you're particularly interested in?
Hands and feet. I'm pretty sure you did that too. Hands and feet.
I didn't really do hands and feet, but if I'm going to be 100% honest, I'm not very comfortable doing the hands. You see my drawings?
I think we did like 3 more figure study days of that one weird ballerina chick for feet, and we might be on the right page.
That's true. That was a tough one. That was the tough one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Turns out curled feet, I cannot draw.
It's tough, man. Yeah, so hands and feet. It's one of those things I'd love to show you, but I don't feel comfortable teaching.
Teaching it?
I'm okay at it. I'm all right.
Uh-huh.
But then there's a reason why all my characters aren't fists. Right? All my characters
I do the same thing.
All my characters are like this. They're always like this.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Frank Miller style. Big, foxy hands.
Yeah.
They're easier.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, let me turn off this.
3/4 view. That's kind of a small thing, but
3/4 view. Well, that's kind of what we're doing here. Why don't we do a little bit of foreshortening then? That'd be interesting. What if we did a little bit of foreshortening? Let's do foreshortening. That'd be an interesting topic. Okay, so what's gonna happen is I'm gonna make a new Zoom link, guys. I'll send it to you. Okay, and for those of you on live, is anyone on live still? Yep, we got a few people on live still. I'm going to stop this live stream, and I'm going to break a brand new one. Okay, so just hold tight. I will share that. So, guys, just give me like 5 minutes, and we will get back at it with a brand new tutorial. Okay? So why don't we do that?
That's good.
Okay, but in the meantime, for those of you who are watching this on the regular channel a month later from when we are actually filming it, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the reactions and all of that, and please join us again for Sunday School. And if you would like to join and be a part of the conversation, if you want to join the Patreon, by all means, please do check it out and find the tier that's right for you. Okay, thank you guys for watching. My name is James, and I'm your best friend. Maybe. That's my new sign-off. A little bit more passion with that best friend. I'm your best friend. All right.